All right. I think we are recording. Think we're recording. Okay.
Ronnie, does it say recording over on your side?
Yes, it does.
Okay, good. I don't see it on my side. Oh, there it is. There it popped up.
All right. So welcome to the Nightmare Before Hybrid. We are so excited you guys are here with us today. We are going to be going over curing the nightmare of hybrid scheduling with the flipped classroom model today. My name is Stephanie Cardenas, and I am a second grade teacher here at Rondo School of Discovery. And I'm so excited to be here with you guys to kind of share some of the things that Emily and I and our second grade team have put together and kind of just experienced through this whirlwind of everything we've all been going through. And I'm excited to learn from all of you here too. Like Emily said, if you could put in the chat what school you're from, what grade level you're teaching currently, that would be great. Also, throughout the meeting, we will be taking turns at answering questions in the chat. If you have any questions, if we happen to not get to your question, we will for sure answer them and get those answers to you after the meeting.
Yes. Okay. And then the goal is to just we're going to try to keep it under 45 minutes. That's the goal. If we could get it under that, that would be awesome. But I am Emily Miranda. I'm also second grade at Rondo. Obviously, this is our first year opening up this school. So I came from Eastvale Elementary. I've had experience in 4th grade, 3rd grade, 6th grade. Eastep was a 6th grade teacher. She's done work in 4th grade. 2nd grade was really like her passion. And just side note, just so you can know, we are a Leader in Me school. So we're both Leader in Me trained. So a few of these things, Foothill, I'm not quite sure. I don't believe you guys are a Leader in Me school. But whatever your PBIS and MTSS focus is, so every time we talk about social emotional, just kind of go into that headspace when we start talking about Leader in Me. I'm an MTSS coach for the district, and we are also PBL trained. So our school is focusing on project-based learning. So we are really about integrating subjects and making sure that our flipped classroom is going to reflect that integration piece. So just kind of a brief outline on that. So just to kick off our theme, it says follow along with our Pumpkin King of Hollow hybrid. We have some ideas to keep you sane while prepping for COVID hybrid scheduling.
What is giving you a fright with the upcoming hybrid schedule? So just like you guys, I know we're all feeling that anxiety of what is this going to look like? We've never been part of a hybrid model. You know, we just got used to doing the remote learning, the remote teaching. We got used to that model. And then, of course, we're switching over to a hybrid model. So we are feeling like we're going back to square one. We don't know where to start. We don't know, overwhelming. And here's some of the things that we as a second grade team talked about that we're feeling, and hopefully share mutual feelings. We're feeling like with this hybrid model, there's not going to be enough instructional minutes. How are we going to get everything that we need to teach in those really 2 hours that the kids are going to be with us on campus? I can't teach at all. A lack of maybe depth in the content standards. Am I going to be able to get deep into the standards with this hybrid model? Unaware of the holes in student understanding. So the kids haven't been here in the classroom since March. And even though we've been teaching remotely, there are some holes that we haven't been able to really identify because we haven't had the kids here where we could see what they're doing, from minute to minute, day to day. We're just kind of relying on what they're turning in on Google Classroom. So, understanding those holes is going to take some time when the kids actually get back on campus. Again, how can the team synergize to meet the needs of all the students and share the load? I don't know about you guys, but this has been so much more work than we've ever had to do teaching our kids. And how can we share that load? How can we take that feeling of like, I have to do it all, I can't do it all, while still be sane and not lose, my mind. And we're going to talk a little bit about how our team has collaborated to ensure that we're all staying sane and healthy and being able to still find joy in teaching. And then what are the kids doing at home? That's been a big question. When they're here on campus, what is it going to look like when they go home? Because we are still going to have to meet those instructional minutes with a combination of at school learning and then at home learning.
Yeah, so Jack Skellington was in a dark COVID town, you might be feeling this, and wanted something a little more cheery to balance his hybrid teaching experience. So I have personally had experience in the flipped classroom model, and that's what we're going to talk about today. I dove into flipped classroom far before I knew March 13th was coming and COVID was going to be our situation. So I did it more like my kids would do a lot of direct instruction through at Eastvale. I only had like 13 to 15 devices, and then I had 34 kids. So I would do the flipped model in class. So that is a way you can apply this later when maybe our life gets a little bit more normal. But really, the hybrid model lends itself so perfectly to the flipped classroom structure. So I would love if you could in the chat, one being you have no idea what a flipped classroom model is, and 10 being you're an expert, like you should be doing this training over us kind of thing. So where if you heard that flipped classroom, what does that mean to you? Do you have an idea, or are you completely lost? I just want to kind of gauge where everyone is at. So if you could put that into the chat, and please be honest and transparent. No worries if you have no idea what it is or if you've heard of it a couple times. So as far as my experience with it is, it's all the direct instruction is the students get to rewatch videos, and I utilize a lot of technology pieces, which many of you have become experts on because of the situation of 2020. So you utilize like Edpuzzle, and we're going to go over resources of what you can utilize for direct instruction. And the kiddos get to look at that on their own, and then their time with their teacher is really that analyzing piece and focusing on how to dive deeper into the standards. So you're not wasting that precious amount of time with your kiddos direct instructing. They're getting that on their own. So we're going to talk about lots of examples and lots of ways to do it. So let me just check the chat because I knew you guys were in there. So I'm seeing kind of all over the board, 5s, 1s, maybe a 7, a 3. Okay, good. So I'm glad that this should be helpful to you guys. So let's talk about what that really looks like. If you want to, at that bottom black section, it's the bit.ly that is connected to the presentation. So if I were you, I'd write that down somewhere, because we call these little Jack Skellingtons our Sally Secrets. And if you see one of those, click on it and it'll open up some more resources for you. So go ahead and maybe write that bit.ly down, bit.ly.
I also just put it in the chat for everyone.
Perfect. /Hallow Hybrid. Write that down somewhere, keep it somewhere in like your lesson plan book, because we have a lot of resources to offer you that can help, get you started on that flipped classroom. So before you embark, because I did see a lot of 1s, before you embark on the flipped classroom, you need to take an inventory of your team and yourself. And so we're going to kind of talk a little bit about how we started as a 2nd grade team and what worked best for us. Steph's going to talk about some of our triumphs that we've seen so far, and just really how we can work more as a team and share that load.
Mm-hmm. So, we're in a unique situation here at Rondo School of Discovery. We're a brand new school. So I'm actually the team lead of our 2nd grade team. And the vision I had for our team was I really wanted to build a collaborative team that would work together, that would share the load, that would share the ideas, that would, pull from each other's expertise, each other's strengths to really meet the needs of all of our kids. Prior to knowing that we were going to start the way that we did, that was my vision. And then when I found out that we were, it was even more of my vision to really bring our heads together to kind of calm that anxiety, calm that workload, calm that, and just feel like we can work together and we can do this together as a team. So before any hard work takes place, and then we'll talk a little bit about this, as we keep going through the presentation, we must understand each other's personal values and using those to create team values. So at the beginning of the year, what I did with the team was I had each team member identify what their values were. And it really brought us together from being, some of us complete strangers, to really coming together and understanding each other just by sharing our values. So this is a screenshot and this is on the top of our PLC meeting notes. And if you look at the top, each teacher shared their values and why those values were important to them. So you have, Eichelberry, grace, adaptability, integrity. Becky was loyalty, kindness, being a team. Gemma, curiosity, nature, environment, perseverance. Miranda, growth, creativity, family. Mine was family, human relationships, courage. We then took those values and we created team values together, right? So taking those things that are important to each one of us and creating team values, what is going to be important for us as a team. And we came up with 3. We have 3 values. We have growth, teamwork, and integrity. And this is a process that I highly encourage that if you haven't done it with your team, that you really take the time to do, because when it comes time, when we were in the moments of like super high anxiety, super stress, coming back to our values and understanding each other's values, we were able to have those crucial conversations. We were able to trust each other and build that trust and know what was important to each one of us as we move forward, being a collaborative team. If you click on the Sally here, there's an explanation. It'll take you to how you can do the activity with your team and kind of how we broke it down. So that'll be a good resource for you. And then from taking those values, we created a team mission statement. And this is part of the Leader in Me school. And this was our team mission statement. And this is something we always come back to. This is something we shared with our families, not our personal families, but our students' families, our learning community, because we really wanted them to know that we were a united front together as a team. And it didn't matter what teacher they were getting, they're getting everything from us. And this became crucial because we share a lot of the workload. So the kids are not just hearing lessons from Miss Miranda or me, they're hearing lessons from all of us. They know all of us, even through virtual. And that's something that we found to be very powerful as we were doing the remote learning process. And to go back to the triumphs, PLC has been a non-negotiable for us. I know it's not mandatory for us right now, but we really wanted to make it mandatory for us, that we made it mandatory to ourselves, because one of our values is collaboration and working together and growth. So we were meeting every single Monday. That's kind of the day that we set, whether it was virtual or however we decided to meet, where we would dissect standards, calibrate our intentions, and delegate the skeleton of the week. So this has been our routine from the beginning. We meet on Monday, we decide, and in the beginning, it was a lot of time spending time together, even through Zooms and stuff, kind of creating lessons together, creating units together, until we reached that point where we built that trust, and then we started delegating, okay? Miranda, you're gonna do math, we're gonna do this, you're gonna do these slides, and we created a skeleton of like, these are our expectations, these are the standards we're hitting for the week, now let's go create. Then we had a midday check-in on Wednesday, typically, where we would just kind of check in, see if anybody had any questions, or wanted to share your slides or whatever you were working on with the team, get feedback from the team, and then we have everything completed, ready to load to Google Classroom for the next week. And this has been a huge triumph, because through this process, and don't get me wrong, I was still overwhelmed and it's still overwhelming and stressful, but it definitely lightened that load, where I was able to really focus and we utilized every team member's strengths to work harder and not smarter, right? When we came in, Emily is our tech wizard. I'm our big picture person. Becky's our social emotional person. So we were pulling those strengths together to build those lessons. And then we started learning from our strengths. And then routines, were perfected. Then we were able to focus on content. So these have been our triumphs from the process that we started from the beginning as a team. And something, to reflect on and kind of just talk about with your team as you embark on this new hybrid model, because we feel stronger as a team to be able to take this new challenge on.
Mm-hmm. So of course, we're all in this new venture and this hybrid we've never done. So the other piece, just to kind of tie in the triumphs and then into the challenges, there's a lot of times where us as teachers, we don't know if we're doing the right thing. There's no perfect model of like, this is what you do with COVID 2020, remote learning and hybrid, right? So it's really nice to have those check-ins and talk with one another. But we wanted to share the challenges because there have been plenty, right? Of course there have been. So we have, because we have shared our values and we've built that trust, and remind you, we are a brand new team. So if you are maybe a team that has worked well with each other and you have, you know, maybe been on the same team for a couple of years, you don't have to do as much legwork as we did. But I still agree with addressing those values. We have to push each other. We have to push each other to go out of our strengths. Like Miss Cardina said, I came in with a lot of tech background, but my whole team could do everything now. What they felt uncomfortable with at the beginning of July, they're like ready to go and can do it all. So you got to push each other and get into those uncomfortable situations. Again, a challenge for us, Foothill, you don't feel this, but for us, I know my Rondo peeps can understand the year-round schedule is really hard, because when one team member leaves and you're used to them working on a certain strength, they're gone. Oh no, what do we do, right? So year-round schedule is just always something that's hard for us. The feeling of other subjects lacking in time. You're going to feel this with hybrid. It's going to happen. So how do you determine what takes your top priority? And I just, for myself, this is a personal perspective. I cannot sit there and look at all of second grade standards and determine which ones I'm going to teach and which ones might take a back seat on my own. And that's why I love that team discussion, really finding those anchor standards together and having those discussions as a team. So if you're not utilizing one another, you're making all these really heavy decisions on your own, and that's stressful. So we have really shifted into the mindset of incorporating that PBL. Okay, that means like really understanding that if we're focusing on, like, we're doing a project where the kids are inventing a toy, and we have to look at that project and how can we tie in language arts and science and math and everything within it and look at it big picture that way. Okay, we are not anymore teaching specific, okay, now it's math time. Okay, now let's switch to language arts. Okay, now there's not going to be enough time for that, especially in your hybrid when they're here. There's not enough time for you to teach, you know, sectioned out. It's going to feel choppy, right? So you have to think, how can you do more of an integrated approach when they're here in class and also at home? So we started teaching subjects in isolation. We realized that it is not working. Mastering the content that is being created by other team members so that you can best support your own students. So we're going to get into it, but with the hybrid, we're still going to be doing Google Classroom. We're still going to be doing all of that heavy lifting of here's what you do at home. So you have to rely, I have to rely on my other teammates to create some lessons. And I am guilty of it. Sometimes I would just plug and play and put it into my Google Classroom, and then I would have office hours and my kiddos would be like, I'm confused on slide 6 on the math. And I'm like, oh, what is that? And I would go back and look because I wasn't in charge of that one for that week. So if you are delegating and helping one another master the content, make sure you know exactly what is going on in each slide. And also it's helpful to go over it because we had a lot of video and technology issues. So sometimes we would send things out, but the share settings was messed up. So the kids couldn't get to see the video. And if I would have just taken that extra 10 minutes on Sunday night before I, put it into my Google Classroom, I could avoid some of those technology issues that come up. And really, if we think about it, we're going to be with kids all day long. So are we going to be able to be hopping over to the computer and fixing the share settings while we're with cohort B, right? So really making sure you're mastering the content if you aren't the one who is creating that. I hope that makes sense. And then feeling like a brand new teacher again, okay? I know so many of us are just like, this is a brand new, I feel like I'm exploring a new career, right? Understanding that everyone feels that way, and it's okay. It's going to be okay. You're going to be okay. Take it one day at a time. We'll get through this. So how are we going to do all this? Well, we're going to get into the flipped classroom and why flipped classroom is the way to go with hybrid.
Okay, so spreading the research of joy of flipped classrooms. So Jack stumbles upon the Christmas store and is fascinated with what he has found. So the flipped classroom direct instruction starts at home with technology. It's strategic practice that takes place at school. Again, we already are strong in that area. We've all had the time to get really familiar with technology. So we're not going to feel like we're learning so much technology anymore. And we are going to use the technology experience that we've gained, that our kids have gained, and that's how they're going to gain direct instruction at home. And then when they come in the classroom, you're going to strategically and intentionally plan the practice that they're going to be doing at school. The flipped classroom format prepares students for more complex thinking at school. It's empowering to students. It creates a student-centered learning environment that right now you might feel like, am I going to have to direct teach hybrid for 2 hours before I send them home? It's going to take that pressure away, and it's really going to create that's the continuous environment where the kids are taking ownership of their learning. It turns the teacher into a learning guide. It's a better student-teacher interaction, and it's actually improved, it's been research proven that it improves knowledge retention. So this is just a little bit of research behind the flipped classroom, and we're going to dive deeper into it. So here's a visual to kind of help you understand what the flipped classroom looks like. And like Emily said earlier, there's different models. There's a flipped classroom model for when you're in the classroom, but we're going to be looking at this model because of the hybrid classroom situation that we're going to be in. So at home, students work with technology at their own pace. This is going to be what they're going to be doing at home in their Google Classroom or whatever you're pushing out to them. And at home is the direct instruction. This is where they're going to understand and remember. There will be some independent practice that they will do maybe at home. They watch your direct instruction video or whatever direct instruction you're providing to them, and then they get a little bit of practice. Then when they come to school is where we're going to be focusing on those higher DOK levels. They're going to be analyzing, creating, applying, and evaluating projects, discussions with peers and the teacher. Being intentional about what you're providing at home, they're going to come in prepared for more complex thinking to take place at school. You're going to have a chance maybe to go look at, if you had them do some practice at home, look at that, and that's going to help you guide your intentional instruction in the classroom and make those 2 hours super fruitful for the kids, and where they're going to be learning, and it's not just going to be you teaching them how to, teaching them a strategy or teaching them direct, phonics skills. You guys know what I'm talking about. So using online content will be provided by the teacher, and later on in the presentation, we're going to give you different ways of how to do that and how the at-home and the in-classroom is going to look like.
So here's a hybrid classroom schedule for cohort A. Okay, so you'll see at first, you'll have my Jack Skellington with a mask on. Okay, that's going to represent our kiddos are here at school. Okay, then the haunted house is going to be your students at home. So when cohort A first arrives in the morning, you have about 2 hours, okay, with drop off and the exit and all of that going on. You're going to have about 2 hours probably with them. So the way that we are structuring our day is we are going to start non-negotiable 30 minutes, especially, I know that sounds like a long time, but at the beginning, we're going to apply 30 minutes to social emotional lessons, because they have been out of the classroom since March. They're going to need a lot of love and support and reminders of how to act in a classroom, how to be a student, how to handle whatever they're working on without mom and dad standing right next to them. We are just huge believers, and our philosophy lies in that SEL. If you focus in on that, your hour of instructional, integrated instructional block, and I know that sounds so short because we're used to having them for 6 hours a day, it's just going to be more beneficial. You cannot just have them walk in and boom, bam, let's start doing multiplication 2 digit by 2 digit, right? They're going to be like, whoa, what is happening right now? So start getting that into your mind. And I'm sure you all have already thought about this, so I'm preaching to the choir, but take that 30 minutes and be okay with that. Do not feel like, oh my gosh, they haven't been in school since March, I have so much to cover. That frantic feeling is not going to help anyone in the classroom. Take that time to have those social emotional, check in with them. You have no idea what they've been dealing with since March. Take that time to check in and then get into that integrated block. And then we gave another 30 minutes of a lot of teachers want to do some assessments in class, because I don't know about you, but my second graders, will be taking assessments at home, and they're doing, what a sixth grader would do. I wonder how that's happening, right? They're getting a lot of help at home. Some aren't getting help at all. And so the grades are just wonky. So I think maybe some assessments in class would be great. The wiggle room is like, maybe you need to do some brain breaks. We'll talk about some other ideas that you could do there. Then your cohort A goes home, okay? Once they spend the morning at school with you, then they go home. This is where that flipped classroom comes in. Cohort A is going to be I'm going to explain what is happening at home in a second. So the kids are doing pre-recorded direct instruction, independent understanding, and foundational skills. If you look over at students at home, you've already been doing this. You are actually an expert at this right side, okay? But what you need to start thinking is being really intentional on what activities can they do alone and create lots of understanding and remembering basic foundational skills, doing those pre-recorded lessons, so that when they come to school, you're utilizing all that information that they got. Your cohort A is going to be doing their pre-recorded direct instruction on Monday afternoon. When they come in on Tuesday morning, that's when you're doing the analyzing and the high DOK levels with whatever they learned on Monday afternoon by themselves. Cohort B obviously is just flipped. They're at home first. So I kind of like, if I was a student, I would prefer cohort B, because I get my pre-recorded direct instructions. I get all my lessons from my teacher. I can watch it as many times as I would like. Your higher kids might be able to watch it once and be good to go. Your ELs might get to watch it a couple more times. And so when they come to school in the afternoon, they're ready for your integrated instructional block that comes from that direct instruction. So what we did was we kind of gave an example of what this might look like for our second grade team.
Okay, so this is, so our pre-recorded direct instruction. Up at the top, you see like the video, inspiration, and a circle map. That's something that they would watch at home. Like I said, right now we're working on our toy invention PBL, project-based learning project. So at home, they would watch this video, and in this video, they're learning about what it means to invent a toy. They're learning about what a prototype is, etc. So they're going to watch that video at home and then take information from that video in a circle map, get that done. That's going to be their science block integrated lesson part. Then for the math, if you can see here, they have a direct instruction video that they're watching. They're being introduced to a math strategy, and then you can see work is being submitted. Even if it's just one piece of work, you're able to look at that before they come into class and see, okay, half my class knows exactly what the break apart strategy is. The other half has no idea. Now you know how to intentionally teach them while they're here with you and make a valuable decision about what your in class is going to look like. Now, we talked a lot about integration, and sometimes there's things that are going to be really easy to integrate, but when you're introducing new strategies, when you're introducing new things, sometimes that's going to have to be just, a math block where the direct instruction is going to have to happen and the integration is not there, and that's okay. But with the integration approach that we've been talking about, we find that that's been the easiest way for us to be hitting multiple standards and really getting the kids engaged, even though it's been remotely. And we're actually kind of excited for the kids to come back in a hybrid model, because the things that we were doing with them on Zoom for that hour, now that's what we will be doing in person. And then the stuff that we've been creating for them to do at home, that's the stuff that they're going to continue to do at home. So if you think about it, it's not really doing more work or creating more work. You're just taking what you're doing with them on Zoom and bringing that piece in class. And it's going to be easier because, you're going to actually be able to not have the tech issues, actually have control of what they're doing, you know, and it's going to be exciting. So this is just kind of an example of something we did. Actually, we're in it right now this week. And then the morning work. So the 30 minutes of foundational work at home. So we as a team, every day we had them do morning work where they were practicing their sight word list, where they were reading to themselves for 30 minutes, where they were listening to kids' news episodes. They were working on iReady. And this is longer than 30 minutes, but and then Ask Kids for 15 minutes. This is something we have our kids do every day as part of their morning work. This still is going to be part of what they have to do at home, right? And it's 30 minutes of like practicing their sight words, those foundation, working on those foundational skills, so that I'm not just when they come in focusing on let's read our sight words together. That stuff they could be doing at home. That's stuff that the parents still can be helping with at home. That's stuff that going on iReady for 15 minutes at home, that's being those skills that they have holes in, right? Those are the things that they can be doing at home, not the whole time they're at home, but for those 30 minutes to kind of get their brains going for morning work, or when they get home from school and they need a break, if they're in cohort A, you know, they take a little break, then they go back and start with their foundational skills and then go into their lessons. So this is just kind of an example. Again, we're not recreating anything. This is what we've been doing during remote. Now we're just being intentional about what pieces are going to be the pieces that are going to be that they're doing at home and the pieces that they're going to be doing in the classroom.
I think like the biggest thing to take from this is don't have them just do iReady for the two hours that they're at home, because when they come back to you, then they're not going to have any background knowledge, and you're going to have to do all of that legwork, and that's going to cut into your time like face to face with them. So really think about, yes, of course, I want them to get their foundational skills in, but I don't know, figure out what works for you, but really think of how you can work in those foundational skills, but also be really intentional about what they're doing at home so they are prepared and ready to go when you see them face to face. Because I want to like look at my face to face interaction with them as like my golden time, and I'm not going to be wasting it on things that they can just be, you know, watching me do a video on, or we just really have to shift our minds and think, what is that golden time when I am there in person with them?
And then just to add on, obviously you know, 2 hours, we want our regular days back, but this is kind of the perfect world, right? They come in the flipped classroom, they watched something at home, they already come in with knowledge, and now you're able to really take them deep into that deep learning, and it's exciting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so then let's say, what do they do? We were just giving you an example. So eSteph was telling you about how we had them watch this video on how are toys invented, and then they did a circle map and just thought about facts that they gained while they watched the video. Well, in class, what we would do is we would talk about the engineer that was shown on this video, and we would break down his process on how he ended up creating a Super Soaker Nerf gun, and the kids are really in love with it. But we broke apart his process into the engineer process. So we talked, I said, okay, so what did Lonnie, the engineer, do at the beginning? Well, he had to ask questions, and then he imagined, and we would do some sort of a more hands-on activity where we're breaking apart the Super Soaker invention into the engineer process, because we're already thinking next week, our young scholars are going to be creating their own invention, and they need to see a concrete example of it. So think of those lessons that you would just love to be there and to have those discussions, and that normal back and forth that we all miss, those class discussions that we are striving to have so much, like in the classroom. That would be when you do those kind of tasks. So I'm not going to give the kids on their own this engineering design process. I'm not going to say, okay, now what you're going to do is you're going to break apart the video and tell me what this inventor did. When did he ask and imagine and plan and create? That is a lot, right? That's a lot to think of. So what can you do in the classroom that's going to be the highest DOK levels and really utilizing that golden time? So those were just examples of, like, just an example of how we would apply it, like for our week this week. And I loved what eSteph said. Don't think of it as more work with hybrid. What are you doing on Zoom with the kids right now? Put that into person And then you're probably still doing a lot of Google Classroom stuff. That's still going to be there. So we're going to give you lots of resources. So these are what will my students do at school. Okay, so the initial part of the schedule was Jack and Sally get social and emotional. So we want to talk about social and emotional stuff, okay? So working on those restorative circles. If you have never been trained in restorative circles, they are absolutely amazing. I've been trained in it. You can shoot me an email. I can do a training over video if you'd like. Mark Pfeiffer is awesome. He can do trainings. We have a lot of resources in the district that could do just like a mini restorative circle training. And then also, of course, I told you about the Sally Secrets. Click on that, and that will give you some ideas of what a restorative circle is. But essentially, it's building community. And it started in the prison system, and they are now, so many educators use it in their classroom on a daily. And if you do class meetings, you probably have some sort of restorative circle already in place. Estef and I do class family meetings every Friday. We call our classroom a class family. So it's not like the parents come in with them, but each child talks. There's a talking piece. You have a question. It is a very structured circle so that it's quick and easy. It doesn't take a lot of time, but you're checking in with each one of your kiddos. And there only will be, well, I mean, we're not going to be able to actually be in a circle because they need to be in their areas, but you can still do it, right? The talking piece won't be able to happen either because you can't pass it, but there's different creative ideas that you can do for restorative circles. A lot of our stuff on here, mission statements, 7 habit lessons, that's what I was talking about, Foothill, a lot of Leader in Me stuff that we have. We do leadership binders. I just wrote MTSS binders. If you have some sort of PBIS structure, how can you do maybe a lesson every morning to recalibrate the kids back into school life? The district SEL support, if you click on this link here, the district has a bunch of great, there's like newsletters and some great resources for social emotional learning and support that the district has already created. So use that to go ahead and dive more into that, into some ideas, because it's going to take some planning and some lesson structure, design. Thank you. Like you're going to want to make sure you're thinking every day, what do I want to hit on? And I can't tell you what to do. Each class is going to be different. Some classes struggle with shyness. Some classes struggle with, emotional maturity. So you get to pick and design based on how they behaved the day before or what you're struggling with. Maybe we do a restorative circle on mask wearing. How do you wear your mask? How do you make sure your hands are clean? So being able to really set a time in your day to touch on that. We use read alouds as well. And if you click on this, it's 100 read alouds to teach social emotional learning skills. So I was a 4th grade teacher. I know I'm a 2nd grade teacher now, but the kiddos love read alouds. My mom is a high school teacher, and she even had seniors who love read aloud. So don't feel if you're upper grade that you can't do those, because they teach such great lessons and such great ideas to really hit home those social emotional things we're looking for. All right, so once you get done with that social emotional lesson, it's now time for like the heavy hitting hard work. Task cards, STEAM activities, engaging in that engineering process. That was that design process that I was showing earlier. Doing your writer's workshop, your reader's workshop, your math workshop. We use project-based learning if you are interested in that at all. And my Rondo friends, this template is what 2nd grade really uses to organize our PBL. And we all come together and collaborate and put lots of different ideas on it, and it helps organize our weeks, and it really helps integrate subjects. So we have like a driving question, we have a project or a task, and then we can kind of think of it more overarching and then see what major anchor standards we want to put in from all of our subjects, all disciplines. As far as the blending learning test, if you click on this one, it links to Caitlin Tucker, who, if you've never heard of her, she is amazing. She is like tech guru, blended learning guru, and she has courses. and Ronnie can correct me if I'm wrong, but they are free. And if you click on them, she has guided courses to how to do blended learning. Blended learning means just including technology, and she is a big proponent in that flipped classroom model. So she has amazing things on there. If I pull it up and scroll down, you can see the course curriculum. It talks about designing your virtual classroom, curriculum mapping, helping students get and stay organized. So these are just some good courses. I'm sure you guys have a ton of time over your holiday break, but if you're feeling like you don't have anywhere to start, this is a good place to do it. And then last but not least, we have our Oogie Boogie Wiggle Room. This is really up to you, teachers. Brain breaks, iReady assessments, because I know a lot of teachers are struggling with assigning that for home, like the actual assessment piece. So if you want to take the time to do that in class, obviously your formative, summative assessments, running records, prepping for home independent activities. So you're going to have to explain to them, okay, today what you're going to do is you're going to be able to watch a video on a toy invention. And tomorrow we're going to be dissecting that video. So really explaining what you want them to do at home and then what's going to be expected of them when they come back is going to just make your flipped classroom run really smoothly, okay? Clearly defining your expectations in the flipped classroom model is imperative. And then that technology support, I love giving that extra wiggle room, like, okay, who had struggles yesterday? What did you have a struggle with? Are you having a hard time with Flipgrid? All of those kind of things. Just giving yourself some time to gather yourselves, because it's going to be 2 hours and that's going to feel like a whirlwind, and you don't want to feel that way. Like, okay, bye. And then, oh, cohort B's coming in and feeling all overwhelmed. So I would say less is more in this hybrid model.
Yes. Okay, so I'm going to talk a little bit just about what the students can be doing at home and the at-home resources we kind of compiled for you guys. So the first one is Sandy Claus Direct Instruction. So this is some of the tools you can be using at home when the kids are doing that at-home remembering and understanding of direct instruction. Teacher-created videos, Edpuzzle, Educreations, continuing to obviously use your Google Classroom. Student-paced Pear Decks. A lot of us in second grade have been doing the teacher-paced Pear Decks, but, the technology piece, teaching your kids how they're going to be doing a student-paced Pear Deck at home. Some of you already may be doing the student-paced Pear Deck, but I know our second graders aren't, so that, wiggle room we could go over really quick, how you're going to be doing those at home. Fluency apps. Discovery Ed or Discovery STEM Connect, and then Nearpod. And then again, the teacher created videos, splitting up that load, using each other to create different videos of direct instruction, because remember this, it doesn't have to come from me. Miss Miranda could be, if we all split up the work and Miss Miranda's creating a video direct instruction on break apart, that's fine that the kids got that from her. And then they come in and then, we do the in-class instruction. So a lot of things that you probably are already using, know about, but there's links to the websites if you haven't started using these yet for you to kind of peruse and discover. The next one, Jack can be independent. So this is when they're turning in or doing that independent practice at home. Flipgrid, the kids love Flipgrid, still utilizing Flipgrid. Padlet's a great one. For at-home independent collaboration with the kids. Student podcast, trimester 1, we had all of our kids create a podcast, and the Anchor FM is a free podcast. Really easy for the kids to use. We also have a how-to video if you would like us to share that with you. It's an already how-to created video that you can send home to the parents or to the kids. We have that. If you guys would like access to that, let us know. Screencastify, we had our second graders creating Screencastifies last trimester as well. That can be an independent practice. You could be sharing those in class with the kids. Hyperbox, Google Slides, Seesaw, Boom Cards, and then Jamboards. We've been utilizing Jamboards a lot during Zoom. So these are all the things that the kids have been using at home all this time. That again, just adjusting to the new schedule is going to be the biggest struggle for the teachers and the kids. But once we get into that new routine again, this is going to be just so amazing, especially with the kids knowing. Think about how much the kids have grown with technology since March, and even us, you know, never would I thought I would be using all of these things. And now I'm like, oh my gosh, I need to include a Jamboard even when they're going to be in the classroom. How are we going to make this happen? Because the kids love it and enjoy it. And then Oogie Boogie still needs some skills. Here are just some, you know, some free resources. Epic and Rivet, those are reading, online reading libraries that the kids can go to. You have Writable. Writable is Roddy, if correct me if I'm wrong, but it's like an assessment for their writing, and it's like right?
You can give assignments for writing all the different persuasive the opinion, the narrative, but it also has SBAC-ish practice.
Yeah. So that's, you know, kind of for our upper grade teachers. Grammar phonics practice, that's Quill, another great resource that Ronnie shared with us, gives them, you know, that grammar skill practice. Because, you know, those are the skills that we still want them to be getting. But when we think big picture, you're like, oh my gosh, grammar and phonics, that's the last thing, you know, I have to fit in my 2-hour schedule. So this would be some, you know, skills that they could be working on at home where you're still hitting those skills, and they're getting that practice for when you do hit them in class. And then of course, Benchmark and Vision. Prodigy is a fun math game. The kids love Prodigy. It's a fun math game that helps build on their skills. And then iReady. And then we did pretty good, 49 minutes. We started a little bit after, but thank you so much for joining us. You know, at first this was for our Rondo teachers, but then we found out today that more would be joining, and we're so happy that you joined us. If you have any ideas or a great idea or something that you could share with us, please, we're always also looking for ideas and wanting to learn from others. Please feel free to email us. Here are our Twitter accounts. And if you have any questions, you can stay back. We'll stay back for a couple minutes, or you can put it in the chat. But thank you so much. Emily, I don't know if you had anything you wanted to add.
I would just want to say good luck. You guys are going to do amazing. I know it seems overwhelming, but look at how far we've come since March 13th. I know it has been difficult being an educator, and so from one educator to another, thank you for everything that you do for children.
Yes.
All right, I think that's it. So if you want to hang out, ask any questions, put them in the chat. I'm going to also put both of our emails, because I don't know why I didn't put that on our slide deck, but you know, I can't remember everything. And we will put that in there if you want to message us. Like Stephanie said, that we have a lot of videos for like Screencastify and the podcast. So if you want to like just venture out and do some things that scare you, call us, because we're scared every day with what we decide to do. But it always works out. We have second graders doing amazing things, so
yes,
don't be
we
shy.
do. And I'm going to put the bit.ly in the chat again. I know a couple of you are asking for the bit.ly, so let me put it in there again. It kind of got lost in the chat, so let's put that in there, and you can save that bit.ly that has all those resources for you guys. I'm going to stop recording for a second.